Oral History Documentary, The Great Depression by Caitlin Moshe. The Great Depression, which began when the stock market crashed on October 29, 1929, was a significant historical period that greatly affected and influenced the lives of many people. My great-grandmother, Helen Archevich, was one of those people. Through her 100 years, my great-grandmother has experienced many historical events. But according to her, none of them influenced her more than the Great Depression and the World War that followed. The Great Depression was a global economic crisis that started in 1929 and devastated the economies of many nations, initiating a period of financial hardships for millions of people. In the United States, the beginning of the Great Depression was marked by the stock market crash on Black Tuesday, which sent Wall Street into a panic and wiped out millions of investors. Over the next couple of years, consumer spending and investment dropped, which caused steep declines in industrial output and unemployment as failing companies laid off workers. By 1933, when the Great Depression reached its worst point, about 13 to 15 million Americans were unemployed, and almost half the country's banks had failed. It took another significant historical event, World War II, to bring the country out of the Great Depression. Although World War II brought about its own tragedies and losses, because the military needed a mass production of weapons to fight the war, American industry kicked into high gear, creating financial security and jobs for many people, and especially women, since many of the men were off to fight in the war. As a young girl who lived through the Great Depression, Helen shared with me her many memories of how it affected her life and the lives of those around her. Helen was born on December 18, 1915, in Warsaw, Poland, and at a very young age immigrated to America with her family in search for a better life. However, not long after settling in Wilkesboro, Pennsylvania, the Great Depression began, which slowed down work and changed everyone's daily lives. Helen has strong memories of how it affected her family personally. Her father was a coal miner who worked in the mines of central Pennsylvania. Helen remembers that her family would all gather around the radio every day at 1:00 p.m. to learn whether there would be work in the coal mines the next day. Because there was not steady work, food was often scarce and hard to come by for many families. While Helen's father also often did not have work, it was very important to him that his family and visitors were offered good food. And to do so, the family would often go without other things. The family worked hard to raise chickens, geese, and to grow a garden to provide for themselves. Even the local storekeeper was told by her father to always let his children have one piece of fruit if they came by the store, but no candy. Holidays were also very hard for many families. During the Great Depression, because there wasn't extra money to spend, Helen remembers that for Christmas, all her relatives would come by her house to celebrate, and while her mother didn't have enough money to buy herself new stockings, hers had many holes in them, she still managed to buy every relative a small gift. The gifts were small, but everyone was pleased to get one. Helen also remembers that on Christmas Day, the children would get to enjoy candy, which was a very special treat. During the Great Depression, every member of the family tried to find some type of work to help support the family. In Helen's family, everyone had an important job. Her father worked long shifts in the coal mines. Helen's mother was a housewife, but her job was probably the most important and difficult. She took care of all the animals that the family raised for food, did all the household chores, and cooked every meal, and weaved rugs on the loom in the basement to make additional money. Helen earned a job when she secretly played with the sewing machine, and her mother realized she was a very talented seamstress. From that point on, Helen was the family seamstress who was responsible for making and mending the family's clothes. Lastly, to help make ends meet, the family took in a boarder who helped pay the rent to the family. While life was definitely difficult during the Great Depression, Helen's siblings and friends still enjoyed activities and games during their free time. Much like teenagers do today, they would go to Harvey's Lake to swim, Sans Souci's amusement park, and have picnics. Helen remembers that she would go on dates with a group of friends to the drive-in movies and that they would sneak in homemade popcorn with them because it was too expensive to buy any at the movies. After living through the Great Depression, Helen believes that although it was very difficult, the Great Depression shaped her into the person she is today. Helen feels that it is very important to always live within one's means and to work hard. She believes that it is very important to never take things for granted.